Hello, wonderful humans. I am about to read chapter 3 of Mice and Men, so follow along. My child is currently listening to or watching The Good Dinosaur in the background, so hopefully you can't hear that and be distracted. If you remember, we are officially on the ranch. George and Lenny have met many of the guys. So far we know, we know George, Lenny, the old guy who owns the really old dog. We know the boss's son, Curly, and we know Slim and Carlson. Okay, so we're meeting all these guys, and let's see how these relationships progress. Here we go. Chapter 3 of Mice and Men. Although there was evening brightness showing through the windows of the bunkhouse, inside it was dusk. Through the open door came the thuds and occasional clangs of a horseshoe game, and now and then the sound of voices raised in approval or derision. Slim and George came into the darkening bunkhouse together. Slim reached up over the card table and turned on the tin-shaded electric light. Instantly, the table was brilliant with light, and the cone of the shade threw its brightness straight downward, leaving the corners of the bunkhouse still in dusk. Slim sat down on a box, and George took his place opposite. "It wasn't nothing," said Slim. "I would have had to drown most of 'em anyways. No need to thank me about that." Okay, so what does that mean? That means Lenny got his puppy. George said, "It wasn't much to you, maybe, but it was a hell of a lot to him. Jesus Christ, I don't know how we're going to get him to sleep in here. He'll want to sleep right out in the barn with him. We'll have trouble keeping him from getting right in the box with them pups." "It wasn't nothing," Slim repeated. "Say, you was right about him. Maybe he ain't bright, but I never seen such a worker. He damn near killed his partner bucking barley. There ain't nobody can keep up with him. God almighty, I never seen such a strong guy." George spoke proudly. "Just tell Lenny what to do, and he'll do it if it don't take no figuring. He can't think of nothing to do himself, but he sure can take orders." Slim moved back slightly so the light was not on his face. "Funny how you and him string along together." It was Slim's calm invitation to confidence. "Do you think that George can trust Slim? Because don't forget, if anybody finds out that Lenny is mentally disabled or mentally different in any way, they will take him to an asylum. So how do you feel about Slim? Can we trust him?" "What's funny about it?" George demanded defensively. "I don't know. Hardly none of the guys ever travel together. I hardly never seen two guys travel together. You know how the hands are. They just come in, they get their bunk, they work a month, and then they quit and they go out alone. Never seem to give a damn about nobody. It just seems kind of funny, a cuckoo like him and a smart little guy like you traveling together." "He ain't no cuckoo," said George. "He's dumb as hell, but he ain't crazy, and I ain't so bright neither. I wouldn't be bucking barley for my 50 and found. If I was bright, if I was even a little bit smart, I'd have my own little place, and I'd be bringing in my own crops instead of doing all the work and not getting what comes up out of the ground." George fell silent. He wanted to talk. Slim neither encouraged nor discouraged him. He just sat back quiet and receptive. Do you have friends like that, or family members? People who just kind of let you, get things off your mind? It's kind of like how Slim is. "It ain't so funny, him and me going around together," George said at last. "Him and me was both born in Auburn." "Shout out Auburn, California, woo woo." "I knowed his Aunt Clara. She took him when he was a baby and raised him up. When his Aunt Clara died, Lenny just come along with me out working. Got kind of used to each other after a little while." Said Slim. George looked over at Slim and saw the calm, godlike eyes fastened on him. "Funny," said George. "I used to have a hell of a lot of fun with him. I used to play jokes on him because he was too dumb to take care of himself, but he was too dumb to even know he had a joke played on him. I had fun. Made me seem goddamn smart alongside of him. Why, he'd do any damn thing I told him. If I told him to walk over a cliff, over he'd go. That wasn't so damn much fun after a while. He never got mad about it neither. I've beat the hell out of him, and he could have bust every bone in my body just with his hands, but he never lifted a finger against me. George's voice was taking on the tone of confession. I'll tell you what made me stop that. One day, a bunch of guys was standing around up on the Sacramento River. I was feeling pretty smart. I turns to Lenny and says, "Jump in." And he jumps. Couldn't swim a stroke. He damn near drowned before we could get him. And he was so damn nice to me for pulling him out. Clean forgot that I told him to jump in. Well, I ain't done nothing like that no more. That's heavy. Think about that for a second. He almost killed Lenny. So do you think that maybe Lenny and George go around together because George feels like he owes something to Lenny after all that? Something to think about. "He's a nice fella," said Slim. "Guy don't need no sense to be a nice fella. Seems to me sometimes it just works the other way around. Take a real smart guy and he ain't hardly ever a nice fella." George stacked and scattered the guards and began to lay out his solitaire hand. The shoes thudded on the ground outside. At the windows, the light of the evening still made the window squares bright. "I ain't got no people," George said. "I seen guys that go around on ranches alone. That ain't no good. They don't have no fun. After a long time, they get mean. They get wanting to fight all the time." "Yeah, they get mean," Slim agreed. "They get so they don't want to talk to nobody." "Of course, Lenny's a goddamn nuisance most of the time," said George. "But you get used to going around with a guy and you can't get rid of him." "He ain't mean," said Slim. "I can see Lenny ain't a bit mean." "Of course he ain't mean, but he gets in trouble all the time because he's so goddamn dumb. Like what happened in Weed." Oh. Do you remember what happened in Weed? Should George be talking about what happened in Weed? We don't even know if we can trust Slim yet, right? He stopped in the middle of turning over a card. He looked alarmed and peered over at Slim. "You wouldn't tell nobody?" "What did he do in Weed?" Slim asked calmly. "You wouldn't tell?" "No, of course you wouldn't." "What did he do in Weed?" Slim asked again. How many of you think that George should not say anything right now? "Well, he's seen this girl in a red dress. Dumb bastard like he is, he wants to touch everything he likes, just wants to feel it. So he reaches out to feel this red dress, and the girl lets out a squawk. And that gets Lenny all mixed up, and he holds on because it's the only thing he can think to do. Well, this girl squawks and squawks. I was just a little bit off, and I heard all the yelling, so I comes running. And by that time, Lenny's so scared, all he can think to do is just hold on. I sock him over the head with a fence picket to make him let go. He was so scared he couldn't let go of that dress. He's so goddamn strong, you know." Slim's eyes were level and unwinking. He nodded very slowly. "So what happens?" George carefully built his line of solitaire cards. "Well, that girl rabbits and tells the law she been raped. The guys in Weeds start a party out to lynch Lenny. So we sit in an irrigation ditch underwater all the rest of the day, got only our heads sticking out of the water and up under the grass that sticks out from the side of the ditch, and that night we scrammed out of there." Slim sat in silence for a moment. "Didn't hurt the girl none, huh?" he asked fierce. Finally. "Hang on, crying baby." Slim sat in silence for a moment. "Didn't hurt the girl none, huh?" he asked finally. "Hell no, he just scared her. I'd be scared too if he grabbed me, but he never hurt her. He just wanted to touch that red dress like he wants to pet them pups all the time." "He ain't mean," said Slim. "I can tell a mean guy a mile off." "Course he ain't. He'll do any damn thing Lenny came in through the door. He wore his blue denim coat over his shoulders like a cape, and he walked hunched way over. "Hi, Lenny," said George. "How you like that pup now?" Lenny said breathlessly, "He's brown and white just like I wanted." He went directly to his bunk and lay down and turned his face to the wall and drew up his knees. George put down his cards very deliberately. "Lenny," he said sharply. Lenny twisted his neck and looked over his shoulder. "Huh? What do you want, George? I told you you couldn't bring that pup in here. What pup, George? I ain't got no pup. George went quickly to him, grabbed him by the shoulder, and rolled him over. He reached down and picked the tiny puppy from where Lenny had been concealing it against his stomach. Lenny sat up quickly. Give him to me, George, George said. You get right up and take this pup back to the nest. He's got to sleep with his mother. You want to kill him? Just born last night, and you take him out of the nest. You take him back, or I'll tell Slim not to let you have him. Lenny held out his hands pleadingly. Give him to me, George. I take him back. I didn't mean no harm, George. Honest, I didn't. I just want to pet him a little. George handed the pup to him. All right, you get him back there quick, and don't you take him out no more. You'll kill him the first thing you know. Lenny fairly scuttled out of the room. Slim had not moved. His calm eyes followed Lenny out the door. Jesus, he said. He's just like a kid, ain't he? Sure, he's just like a kid, and there ain't no more harm in him than a kid neither, except he's so strong. Bet he won't be able to come in here and sleep tonight. He'd sleep right alongside that box in the barn. Well, let him. He ain't doing no harm out there. It was almost dark outside now. Old Candy, the swamper, came in and went to his bunk. Behind him struggled his old dog. Okay, so now we know his name. His name is Candy. Hello, Slim. Hello, George. Didn't neither of you play horseshoes? I don't like to play every night, said Slim. Candy went on. Either you guys got a slug of whiskey? I got a gut ache. I ain't, said Slim. I'd drink it myself if I had. I ain't got a gut ache neither. All right, tune in for part 2 of chapter 3.